اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
خاتمہ بالخیر چہلم کا ہوا،
خاتمہ بالخیر چہلم کا ہوا،
خاتمہ بالخیر چہلم کا ہوا، الوداع اے اشک بارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
کہہ رہے ہیں مرقدوں پر اہل بیت،
مرقدوں پر اہل بیت،
کہہ رہے ہیں مرقدوں پر اہل بیت، فاطمہ زہرا کے پیارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
دشت سونا پاس بستی بھی نہیں،
دشت سونا پاس بستی بھی نہیں،
دشت سونا پاس بستی بھی نہیں، بے دیارو بے مزارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
کربلا کی خاک کو سونپا تمہیں،
کربلا کی خاک کو سونپا تمہیں،
کربلا کی خاک کو سونپا تمہیں، عرش اعظم کے ستارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے الوداع، شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اکبر و اصغر علی کی ضامنی،
اکبر و اصغر علی کی ضامنی،
اکبر و اصغر علی کی ضامنی، نوجوانوں شیر خوارو الوداع اے الوداع۔
اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اے دوست دارو الوداع ہے الوداع
کہتی تھی زینب یہ قبر شاہ سے
کہتی تھی زینب یہ قبر شاہ سے
کہتی تھی زینب یہ قبر شاہ سے تم بھی زینب کو پکارو الوداع ہے الوداع
بھائی کے سوگوارو الوداع ہے الوداع شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع ہے الوداع
قبر سے آواز آئی ہے بہن
قبر سے آواز آئی ہے بہن
قبر سے آواز آئی ہے بہن وہ بہن زینب سدھارو الوداع ہے الوداع
بھائی کے سوگوارو الوداع ہے الوداع شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع ہے الوداع
گھر کہاں کنبا کہاں قبر کہاں
کہاں کنبا کہاں قبر کہاں
گھر کہاں کنبا کہاں قبر کہاں اے غریبو بے دیارو الوداع ہے الوداع
بھائی کے سوگوارو الوداع ہے الوداع شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع ہے الوداع
قبر پہ بیٹوں کی زینب نے کہا
قبر پہ بیٹوں کی زینب نے کہا
قبر پہ بیٹوں کی زینب نے کہا ماں وطن جاتی ہے پیارو الوداع ہے الوداع
بھائی کے سوگوارو الوداع ہے الوداع شاہدی کے دوست دارو الوداع ہے الوداع بھائی کے سوگوارو الوداع ہے
إن الله وملائكته
إن الله إن الله إن الله
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي والذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Sisters and brothers, welcome to our program here, the third program for tonight. And we will begin here with the Adhan for Maghrib, which will be followed by the Marthiya, then the presentations for tonight, and then we'll end with Latmiyah and Ziyarat Arbaeen, inshallah. So let's all get situated here for Salaat and the Adhan, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.
اللهم صل على أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن علي ولي الله أشهد أن علي حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير الأمل حي على خير الأمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الصلاة في المسجد الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدعو اليتيم ولا يحض ولا طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماء الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي.
الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته وقوموا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. ربي ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. ربي صل على محمد الله. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى.
الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي
الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. حول الله وقوته يقوم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى.
الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى. يا ولي العافية سأكون عافية في الدنيا والآخرة.
الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والإقامة في دار السلام وجبار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
اللهم صل على أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل السافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم غير يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم. سمع الله لمن سمع الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى.
الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى.
الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد ولم يولد ولم يكن له الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا رسوله اللهم صل على محمد حول الله وقوته يقومون الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآله يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية يا الله أكبر بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه
أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنه ليس علم بموضع رزقي فإنما أطلبه بفترات تخطر على قلبي معجولات طلبه البلدان فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيران لا أدري في سهل هو في جبل أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر فعلى يدي من ومن قبل من وقد علمت أن علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك فأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله واجعل يا رب رزقك لي وسعا فمطلبه سهلا ومعقبه غريبا ولا تؤمنني بطلب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا إنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك. وصل على محمد وآله وجد على عبدك بفضلك إنك ذو فضل عظيم.
Sisters and brothers, as we complete our prayers this evening, let us remember those people who are in difficult situations around the world, those who are in hospitals at home recovering, those who are languishing unjustly in prisons, people who are stuck in conflict zones, those affected by climate change calamities here in the United States as well as other parts of the world, those who are displaced and or in refugee camps, those who are enduring economic hardship, and Allah bring relief. Let us all begin the prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء.
Request for Surah Al-Fatiha for the silent sawab of the Maghrebain of the close of sports of Tabaruk tonight, for the Maghrebain of those who have supported our Arbaeen programs and those, all of us in our family and friend circles. Al-Fatiha. Sister brothers will now break up and get situated for the remainder of our program. We'll start in a couple of minutes here. Salaat. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Sisters, brothers, let us get all situated here. We will begin opening with the Quran, and after that we'll continue with the Marthiya, and there'll be some remarks tonight. So I will request Brother Parsa, that Farnia, to come ahead here and get us started. Please welcome him with Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد.
نسألك يا من هو الله الذي لا
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد أنزلنا إليكم آيات بينات ومثلا من الذين خلوا من قبلكم وموعظة للمتقين. الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح. المصباح في زجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم فضله والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the Lord of mercy, giver of mercy. We have sent verses down to you, clarifying the right path, examples of those who passed away before you, and teaching for those who are mindful of God. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. His light is like this. There is a niche, and in it a lamp. The lamp inside a glass like a glittering star, fueled from blessed olive tree, from neither cast east nor west, whose oil almost gives light even when no fire touches it. Light upon light, God guides whoever he will to his light. God draws such comparison for people. God has full knowledge of everything, shining out houses of worship. God knew that they would be raised high and his name be remembered in them, with men in them celebrating his glory morning and evening. Men who are not distracted, either by commerce or profit, from remembering God, keeping up the prayer and paying from the prescribed alms, fearing a day when hearts and eyes would turn over. God will reward such people according to the best of their actions, and he will give them more of his bounty. God provides limitlessly for anyone he loves.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Thank you very much, Sister Tazia. Now we'll request Brother Mansoor for the recitation tonight. Please welcome Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد.
محمد علی محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Marthiya for Shuhada-e Karbala, so please recite the Surah Fatiha. Salawat. چہلم جو کربلا میں بہتر کا ہو چکا، چہلم جو کربلا میں بہتر کا ہو چکا، پیوند بے کسوں کے تنوں سر کا ہو چکا، اور فاتحہ حسین کے لشکر کا ہو چکا، قبروں پہ شور آل پیغمبر کا ہو چکا، ماتم میں 3 روز رہے شور و شین سے، روئے لپٹ کے مزار حسین سے، ارے روئے لپٹ کے مزار حسین سے، مثل چراغ گورے غریباں پہ دل جلائے، پھولوں کے ساتھ قبروں پہ لختے جگر چڑھائے، یاروں کی بود و باش کے ساما جو یاد آئے، بے ساختہ پکارے کلے جا پکڑ کے ہائے، ہائے ہائے وہ پردہ دار ہمارے کدھر گئے، بے پردہ ہو کے آل نبی در بدر گئے، بے پردہ ہو کے آل نبی در بدر گئے، مقتل کے آس پاس یہ بیووں کی تھی فغان، زینب جبی لحد پہ دھرے کرتی تھی بیان، اے میرے کربلائی برادر حسین جان، ہم شیر 3 دن سے تمہاری ہے مہمان، اللہ میری بات بھی پوچھی نہ آپ نے، زندہ کی واردات بھی پوچھی نہ آپ نے، ارے زندہ کی واردات بھی پوچھی نہ آپ نے، حضرت کی قبر ہل گئی زینب کے بین سے، آ کر کہا بشیر نے ابن حسین سے، شہزاد جاں بلب ہیں پھوپھی شور و شین سے، چلیے وطن کو قبر شاہ مشرقین سے، عابد نے پوچھا کیوں پھوپھی اماں قبول ہے، وہ بولیے اختیار ہے کیا قبول ہے، ارے وہ بولیے اختیار ہے کیا ہاں قبول ہے، آئے تھے کس طرح سے وطن کس طرح چلے، نہ شہر رہے نہ گودیوں میں گود کے پلے، سوتے تھے قبر میں جو کٹائے ہوئے گلے، یہ وقت وہ تھا پھرتے تھے سب آنکھ کے تلے، عابد سے بانو کہتی تھی مہلت قلیل ہے، کچھ خاک پاک لے لو کہ صغرا لیل ہے، ارے کچھ خاک پاک لے لو کہ صغرا لیل ہے، اے قبر سرور دلگیر الوداع، اے قتل گائے حضرت شبیر الوداع، اے قبر ابن صاحب تطہیر الوداع، اے بھائی جان جاتی ہے ہم شیر الوداع، کیا غم نصیب ہے یہ نواسی رسول کی، تم نے مجاوری نہ ہماری قبول کی، رے تم نے مجاوری نہ ہماری قبول کی، झेलुम जो करबला में 72 का हो चुका। पर मोहम्मद आले मोहम्मद बुलंदर सल्लल्लाहु
Thank you, Brother Mansoor. Sister, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just want to talk about a couple of things before we invite our guest speaker for his final address for the Arbaeen series. As you may have gathered from the reports in the media, that there was a cataclysmic event in Pakistan where about 33 million people have been displaced because of the rains, monsoon rains that have ravaged. People have destroyed houses, livelihoods, and they still are in areas that are swamped with water, basically. When we heard about this news, the Iman Center decided to participate in this relief effort as we have done in the past. For example, a few years ago, there was a Bam earthquake. We raised some money and sent money over there to Bam. Also had an earthquake in Pakistan that we also participated. Indonesian earthquake was another one. So over the years, we participated in various things like this. So this was a pretty serious development. We thought that we should really do what we can to help those people, most of them who are poor. And I think if you think about it, countries like Pakistan are really affected by these climate changes more so than the countries that are causing the climatic conditions. So we decided, the executive committee of the board decided to send $50,000, the collections that were received and that we are still receiving. I just want to give you an update on how that money has been utilized, right? It's important for us to work with organizations that are well established. So there's this Sindh Flood Relief and Rehabilitation Drive by the Friends Educational and Medical team over there in Karachi. And they arrange for packages of food: rice, 5 kilograms, sugar, 2.5 kilograms, oil, flour, salt, tea, chana, chickpeas, lentils, mosquito protection nets, and various other things, medicine, so forth, tents also sent. This was a package that was put together. It was sent about 500 ration bags and 1,000 mosquito nets. These were sent in this fashion here. The volunteers delivering this, and they started to work on the Basil Nosha Feroz. So this container was loaded, and those who are not familiar with where this is Pakistan here. This is where Karachi is. This is the area where the relief was done. This is a follow-up of this area here. So this relief was done. As you can see, there's a photographic images giving us feedback on how it was done, certified by the people there. And I just want to read a few of the remarks we've received from the volunteers. I think which might be very moving. It says, during times of disaster of such scale, we sometimes forget the human impact of those providing relief. Below are a few testimonies from our team members after they visited interior city. They said, picture can be deleted from our phones. How can we delete the plight of human suffering we have seen with our own very eyes? The scale of devastation in human suffering is such that it goes on several miles or main thoroughfares. Can't even imagine the plight of those in inaccessible locations. During our next phase, we should distribute antiseptic ointments for blisters on the bare feet of the flood victims. Mosquito ointments are also urgently required. Children's faces are covered in mosquito bites. We are so grateful for it. We are so thankful for what we have. May God have mercy on these people. I'd like to thank all of our donors for giving this opportunity to be the RIAs, intermediaries in this great cause. I could not stop crying. We sent 40-foot container, and even if we need hundreds of containers, we will not cover those in need. So on behalf of all those people, and I thank everybody here who has participated in these efforts. And if you have still not participated, if you like to, you can send your contributions to accounts@iman-wa.org via Zelle or write a check. Be happy to do this. This is phase one. The next phase will be just to build a lot of these houses that have been destroyed, and how we can get back them on their feet. But remember, 33 million people. This is like, I think state of Washington is what, 4 million? It's like 8 times the population of Washington state, right? Or I think if you look at Iraq, it's for 20-30 million, the whole country of Iraq. Kind of the scale of the devastation in Pakistan. So that was one part of my appeal to you. The second part is not an appeal, but just a reminder that our fiscal year comes to an end at the end of this month. And those of you who are members of Iman who have not really paid up their subscription, this is a good time for us to collect your subscription. Just as a very rough estimate in your head, this is probably one of the most efficiently run centers, I would say, in North America, if not anywhere else. Our cost structure is very simple. We have about $30,000 to $40,000 of expenditure to keeping the mosque open, insurance, cleaning, supplies, electricity, garbage, and all these kind of things. Out of that, we count on membership to provide about $18,000 to $20,000. $10,000 comes from the school contribution. And the other $10,000 comes from the donations. So we appeal to you to help us cover these basic operational expenses. And these are just basic, just to keep the lights on, basically. Of course, we have other programs like Muharram, Arbaeen, and Ramadan. Those, whatever we collect, we spend during those months. Okay? So please do your part. And with this, I'm going to request our speaker to the podium here. And I guess he will need the chair, so we'll make sure that the chair will come on. This is Bakr Salaat. It's wonderful to have volunteers who can help me out like this. I wish more people will come, so you don't have a one-man band, okay?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, dear brothers and sisters. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be amongst you again for this third night of the program, the conclusion of the program. I'll have to be leaving immediately after my lecture to the airport, so I won't be able to say goodbye to you personally, so I'll do that now. Thank you for the invite, thank you for having me, for your hospitality, for listening to the word that I have to share, and for sharing your thoughts with me as well. I've benefited a lot from your wonderful spirits and souls, and I pray for the well-being of everybody. Hopefully we can, well, we are on a journey altogether as human beings. Each and every one of us is in this world. We're here, we're living, we have a life, we have a soul, and we're sharing this journey together. So I pray that we become more compassionate with each other, more loving, more caring, and more understanding of our struggles and our pain and our hardships, and that we're able to make our lives better and enjoy the few years that we have here in this world, inshallah. Continuing from where we left off yesterday, which was talking about the focus on well-being as being the primary goal that religion, or at least Islam, wants us to achieve. It wants us to live a life that is free of this suffering, free of this difficulties, free of this hardship that comes with the nature of the world and the nature of the self, right? Because human beings are quite complex. We're not simple creatures. We're very complicated. We have a lot of demands, our emotions, our moods, up and down, up and down. Every day one day we wake up happy, another day we wake up mad. 1 minute we're happy, another minute we're mad. It's just crazy. Like we go through swings. And we're all living with each other, trying to make, a living, trying to survive. And we have family members that we're stuck with. We have rules of society that we have to abide by. So a lot of things as human beings create complexity and hardship in our life. Even the way we live, like the more we advance, the more complicated life becomes. You think that, the more efficient we become, the more devices we have that make our life easier, we think we have more time, right? We don't. The more things I can do with my phone, the less time I have. Because once I free up 5 seconds, a task that used to take me an hour, now takes me 10 seconds to do. What happens with that the rest of the time? I fill it up with a million other tasks. Before it was 1 task, now it's 100. So in reality, we're not efficiency or completing tasks in a quicker fashion does not mean that the quality of our life becomes better. This is something we have to think about too. The more things I do, the more things I can finish in a quicker fashion. Doesn't mean that I'm freeing up time. I am freeing up time. But the question is, what am I doing in the rest of that time? Am I adding more tasks or am I using that time wisely? So if we go back to religion to kind of give us a guideline, to show us how we should focus on developing ourselves and living our lives, we see certain teachings, such as dividing our time into 4 portions of the day. One time, as Imam Ali, peace be upon him, says, that to divide your day into 4 portions. A portion for yourself, a portion for your family, a portion for your work, and a portion. Maybe, let's say, you can take it and divide it, see what's important for you. Maybe your body, your health, something that relates to you in this life right now. Obviously, the life that they lived back then was different than how it is right now. A lot of times now we have to exercise because naturally we're not moving. Back then, their jobs didn't entail sitting down on a desk chair and behind the desk, right? Their jobs usually involved some type of movement. So exercise was a natural part of life. Now, because of the jobs that we invented and the technology that we developed as human beings, we have to open up gyms. We have to start running in the morning. We have to start doing things to compensate for that loss that we have from this advancement. So we have to look at the lifestyle that we have, and we have to try to take those guidelines and see how we can apply them to our lives nowadays. I have to have a lot of care for my physical health. That's something that religion really, really emphasizes. Because in religion, the religion considers the body to be a vessel for the soul. So it's like a ship that carries the soul. And the soul cannot function properly if the vessel is ruined. That's why a lot of Islamic scholars back then were physicians as well. They were doctors. Been seen as a primary example. And we have many, many scholars who wrote a lot of books and invented a lot of methods of, surgery and medicine, because there was a primary focus on the health of the body. Imam Ali alayhi salam in the hadith, talking about well-being, as we did yesterday, he says that well-being is of two parts. Well-being of the bodies and well-being of your faith. It's very important to take care of your health. As a religious individual, you have to keep that in mind, that my bodily health is a primary concern that I have to be dealing with. The food that you eat, the exercise that you perform, the going out into nature, for example. Today I went out to one of the trails with some of the brothers here, and it was just beautiful. It removed so much, anxiety and chaos that's in your mind. It just freed, just by walking between nature, observing the beauty of nature. In the hadith, Imam Ali says that looking at greenery is a relief for the soul. The soul becomes relieved, it becomes joyful, just observing the beauty of nature. So this is something that we have to incorporate in our lives, in our schedules, once a week maybe, once, twice, once every 2 weeks. But we shouldn't neglect this. If we want to be people who are living in that life of well-being, then we have to take these teachings and incorporate them in our lives. We can't just sit at home and expect things to work out by themselves. The Imams and the Prophet kept telling their companions and their followers to do certain things. If it wasn't important to take care of your body, then we wouldn't have hundreds of ahadith where the Imams talk about how to take care of your health. Hundreds of ahadith, volumes of narrations, sayings of the Imams of how to take care of your physical health, which means it's a very important aspect of our life. So this is something that we have to do. If we want well-being, then taking care of our physical health is one of those conditions to have well-being. This is very important for us to keep in mind. Another aspect that we have to take care of, and again, the series is talking about religion or making sense of religion in the modern world. What we're trying to do is we're trying to understand the core message of the religion. Without all those layers that masked it over history, without all this confusion and cultural baggage that comes with it that we've received over time, we're trying to understand what the core message of religion is trying to tell us and apply that in our lives, keeping in mind that we are far away from the time of the Prophet, far away from the lives of the Imams. So there's a lot of information that we cannot verify. We shouldn't complicate things, we should simplify. One of my teachers used to say that if the Prophet came during our time and brought the book of laws that we have to the people, then most people would not follow him. He said that the Prophet came with a small amount of rulings. And he said on many occasions that I came with the religion of ease, not the religion of hardship. The Prophet made a point to tell people that I'm here to make your lives easier, not to make it more difficult. So the moment you find that your life is becoming more and more difficult and sophisticated and complicated, then maybe we're missing the point of religion here. We're supposed to see that religion is making us relieved from these hardships and difficulties. Yes, sometimes there are rules because human beings have to be disciplined. So we have to take it in that way. But sometimes there's an excessive obsession with rules and laws. That has a negative effect as well. So we don't want to neglect every kind of rule, just like a child. You can't leave a child do whatever they want. At the same time, you don't want to be too strict on the child. You leave them do whatever they want, they become spoiled. Then you can't control them anymore. If you become too strict on them, that destroys their personality, suffocates them. They can't live and breathe anymore. And once we realize that religion is making us suffocated, then we have to understand that there's something wrong with our understanding of religion. Religion is supposed to make you breathe, make you enjoy this creation in the proper way, in a healthy way. Because God created this world. This world didn't come, like God put it there and he hates it. He made it. He put us here. So he wants us to be able to enjoy the blessings that he put over here. He wants us to enjoy the life and to become introduced to this world that he created for us. So we shouldn't have this negative attitude towards the world. One time a man, Imam Ali heard this man cursing the world, saying bad things about this dunya, this world. And the Imam stops him and says, "Oh, you who's cursing this world, are you the one who harmed the dunya, the world, or did the world harm you? Who's the one who's harming the other one? The world did nothing to you. The world is existing here. There's creatures, there's beings, it's running, we're flying in space, according to the NASA data. And that's the theory right now. They're trying to figure out what gravity is and all these theories. But from what we understand right now, we're in this, with that James Webb Telescope image, for example. We're a minute existent in this world of billions and billions of galaxies. So we exist over here. God created all of this. And he didn't create it just for nothing, or created it and has a negative attitude towards it. No, this is the beauty of the creation. And the Imams didn't allow people to curse the dunya. They didn't even allow people to curse the hour and time. some hadith, in Arabic, there's the, when a person gets mad, I'm not sure about other cultures, but there's this attitude where if something bad happens, you curse the time that you're in. And the Imam used to tell people not to do that. Because really what's happening is that we are the ones who are causing difficulty for ourselves. The world and time and the sun and everything is objective. They don't do anything. They're just doing what they have to do. Our attitude, our perception of things is what makes things good or makes things bad. When I'm talking with someone and I can't control my anger and I ruin my mood because of that and ruin my day, I'm the one who's ruining my own day because I can't control my emotions. I have certain qualities in myself that are not good. I'm a jealous individual. I'm an angry individual. I'm not content with anything. I don't wish happiness for other people. That's a miserable individual. And a miserable individual lives in a miserable life. The problem isn't with life. The problem is with me and my perception and attitude with life. So this is how we can try to understand religion in a healthy way. There's a lot of teachings in religion that are beneficial for us because it wants us to focus on the inward side of us and not only the outside. Of course, we're not neglecting the outer world. For example, Imam Ali alayhi salam said that it's wonderful for a person to have a very large house to live in. You don't have to, as a religious individual, live in a small room, confined, and not being able to move. That's not a requirement. Poverty is something that's not good in the view of religion. You shouldn't live a poor life. We have a lot of ahadith and prayers and supplications where the Imams taught us to ask God and work towards removing poverty from our lives. Because if you're poor, you're going to be in need of other people. If you want to make your family happy, you can't make them happy because they want something and you can't afford it for them. So all of these things that religion comes with and tells us, we can take them and try to understand how to live a lifestyle that is a healthy one and a wholesome lifestyle. To be fulfilled on many different levels of our humanness. We have a physical being, we need that to be taken care of. We have a spiritual side, a mental side, we have to take care of that as well. And happiness lies in balancing our lives in all of this. Happiness is to be found in moderation. And Islam, being called the Salaat al-Mustaqim, the middle path or the straight path, is that trying to find that inner balance in ourselves. In one hadith that is narrated from the Prophet, it's not an authentic hadith, but a lot of our spiritual scholars narrate it because the meaning of it is correct. He says that, I'll give you a paraphrase of the hadith so it doesn't become confusing because it's metaphorical. He says that my brother Jesus was too excessive in the merciful side. Very loving, very forgiving. If someone slaps you on the face, what do? You give us the other ear. Slap me here too, right? Too much love. Not saying it's a bad thing. We're just saying there's an excess in one area. Moses, the prophet says, on the other hand, was excessive on the other side, on the left side, the majestical side. Very harsh. You mess with Nabi Musa, what does he do with him? In the Qur'an. He touched him, he killed the guy. He killed him. He didn't mean to kill him, but it happened. He was very, very harsh in that sense. And then the Prophet says, and I am the one who's in between these two. That balance that the Prophet wanted to give for us is to live not excessively in the loving side where we, are very forgiving, very loving. And that, if you become excessive there, then you don't care much about justice anymore. If you have, for example, you become passive in a way. Your house is being robbed, the thief comes in, and you're a lovey-dovey guy. And, the thief is taking your stuff, your furniture and stuff, and he wants to run away, and you call him, hey, wait a second, forgot the TV. You want to be extra lovey, right? That's excessiveness. On the other hand, we have the people who, as soon as he steps on your lawn, they come down with a shotgun. Why are you walking on? Why trespassing? That's excessive on the other side. What Islam wants us to have is to have that balance in between this and that. Because that's the message that it came with. If you look at the prayers that the Imams have, they always have that balance when they're speaking to God. Because prayers and du'as, they're not just requests from God. The ones that the Imams teach us, they're teaching us how to have an attitude with ourselves and with the divine. The Imam says that, oh God, don't deal with me with your justice. Deal with me with your mercy. But if you do punish me, I deserve it. But if you forgive me, then you're the most forgiving. It wouldn't be something surprising if you forgive myself. So you see that balance? You don't want to have that attitude where whatever I do, I can get away with it. You want that. You want God to forgive everything. So you live in that middle state. On the one hand, you don't want God dealing with his justice with you because you don't want to tolerate, you don't want to handle that punishment. You don't want to be punished. At the same time, you don't want to be too reliant on his forgiveness because here you'll become someone who's spoiled and someone who's uncontrollable. And over there, you're going to become this harsh individual that nobody can stand and be around. Like a lot of people who want to become religious, they become the worst people to be with. Very irritating and annoying and judgmental. Suddenly they become people who think they were appointed by God on earth to come and apply his message. That's what they think they are. And this is a spiritual disease. Now, I can't talk about it tonight, but maybe on another occasion. There's 7 levels of the self in your spiritual development. On the second stage in your journey for developing your spirit and soul, that's one of the diseases that you can become afflicted with. You become arrogant and you become judgmental. And you have to resolve that before it becomes an illness inside of you. And this mostly affects religious people. And not only religious people, even nowadays in politics, we find a lot of people who belong to a certain political group, they also become very judgmental. They can't accept the other side. So last night we ended with a hadith talking about well-being being composed of 10 parts. 9 of those is in silence. Why is silence such an important thing? Why 9 out of 10 parts of well-being lies in silence and not anything else, as the hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salam states? This is something that I think we have to think about. Try to analyze it. Why is silence so important? When I say silence, I don't mean only the silence of the tongue, not speaking, no. Silence meaning the silence of the mind as well, the silence of the soul, the silence of the thoughts that you have. This is also part of silence. Imam Ali in one hadith said that silence is the garden of thought. You're quiet, you're able to explore yourself in a much, much deeper way. So when it comes to understanding what silence is, I shared a hadith with you on the first night. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam tells his companions that the people who came before you were taught how to be silent just as you are taught how to speak. This is how we teach the children how to talk. They were taught how to not speak. And they were trained for 10 years. If they wanted to begin worshiping God, the prerequisite to worshiping was to train yourself for 10 years to be silent. And if you master that, you begin worship. If you don't, then you're not fit for it. It tells us a lot of important things there. Even worshiping is dependent on being silent. So why is silence so important? Why does it gain precedence and more importance than anything else when it comes to well-being? Well, if you think about it, our relationship with the outside world and with everything else, the medium, the middle thing that connects us and the outside is our thoughts. When we look at something, we see images, we see people, right? These come into our brain. They become stored in our brain. When we hear people speaking, we hear their words, we hear, whatever they're saying, their thoughts, it comes into our brains and creates thoughts in our mind. When we touch things, we feel them, creates thoughts in our mind. Oh, this feels cold. Oh, this feels hot. This feels amazing. When we eat, this food is very good. The flavors stick in our mind when we smell. So our senses, even though they don't think by themselves, they bring a lot of things and data to our mind. Every single day, you're sitting down. From the moment you wake up till you sleep, your senses are just gathering data and data and data and throwing it in your mind. And what does your mind do with all of this stuff? It's like a computer where you open like 1,000 tabs. You can't deal with all of it. Just data being stored and just running and running in that processor in your mind. And if you have no control over it, it becomes overwhelming. You sit down for a second, you close your eyes, you want some peace and quiet. You find yourself going through 1,000 topics in your mind in 1 second. Just one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And you're thinking, what's going on with that? Crazy. The moment you go, like, just to think about that, you realize that I can't control my thoughts. It's just this thing that's running and running and running and running. And if that happens, then we cannot sit down and explore ourselves and figure out who we are. We cannot work on improving our lifestyles because we don't have inner quietness. We never have the time to sit down and think about anything properly. So silence is the first step to quieting our minds and thoughts down. That's why a lot of people now want to practice yoga. Because one way to control your emotions is to control your thoughts. You sit down, you clear your mind, you remove everything from it. Why do you get sad? Because a thought comes to your mind. Right now, if you're in a coma or you're asleep, you don't experience the sadness, right? You go to your dream, and some dreams are very interesting, like you're La La Land or you're like in your dreamland, you're happy when you wake up, and after 2 seconds, all that stuff that you weren't thinking about just attacks you at once. Your day starts. I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta go to work, I gotta pay my bills. And thought after thought after thought after thought, always thinking. In one of our hadiths, Imam Sajjad, I think it's him or another Imam, he says that why does a person worry about something that's already passed? Something that happened is gone now. Or worry about something that didn't even happen yet. That's the future. The Imam tells us, why are we always busy thinking about things that happened before? They're gone, they're done. Why am I occupying my now with something that passed and is not going to happen again? It's already gone. That moment is finished. And at the same time, we worry ourselves about something that didn't even happen yet. It still didn't happen. Why am I thinking about it? And this is what they call nowadays to be living in the moment, right? Living in the now. I was watching this documentary on Netflix. Forgot what the name is. This French, I think it was French or Canadian French. He's a mountain climber. I'm sure some of you have watched this. So he climbs mountains without ropes. Has anyone seen this? You've seen it. So he's a mountain climber. He's a solo mountain climber. And he climbs these mountains without using any rope, right? So they wanted to make this documentary about him. And the day that they agreed to make the documentary, he went on another hike, and he wasn't there for the documentary. So they realized that this guy goes by himself, solo climbing. Imagine, like, he picks himself up, doesn't tell anybody. Nobody knows. He just gets up, goes to a mountain range, and climbs it by himself. And you would think to yourself, why would someone do that? I mean, at least tell somebody if you want some recognition or you want some kind of credit for what you're doing. This guy gained satisfaction by doing it by himself. Nobody knew. He didn't want to be famous. He didn't want credit for it. He didn't want any of this. So one thing in the documentary that interested me a lot was when they asked him, like, why do you do this? What is it that you gain from it, right? Because us humans, we always think that we have to do something for a purpose, right? You can't just do something for no purpose. And his answer was that when you're climbing without a rope, any mistake you do would cost you your life. So your focus cannot be for 1 millisecond in the moment before. The moment you think of what you just did before now, you're going to lose focus on what you're holding on to right now. And the moment you think about 1 millisecond after in the future, you're going to also lose focus on this moment, and you can die. Imagine you have no ropes, you're climbing a rock. mountain. That was his way of living in the moment. He said that he experienced living in the moment through mountain climbing, through solo mountain climbing. Very interesting. He wanted that because he realized that that feeling is by living in that moment, you're worry-free. Because we're always worried about something that either occurred in the past or something that's going to occur in the future. But if you're focused on this moment that you're in right now, then there's nothing to worry about. And he wanted that feeling. So he kept going after it, after he climbed mountain after mountain. Now, eventually he had an accident, he fell and he died. That's the end of the documentary. But he didn't care, he knew the risk. He thought that living in that moment was worth dying for. So it tells us something, right? Everybody's looking for that kind of lifestyle of living in the moment, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past, being worry-free. That's the best life that you can have. The hadith of Imam al-Sajjad. Why do people think about something that occurred in the past and something that never happened? Live in the moment that you're in right now. Silence is another way to help us achieve that. A lot of our scholars recommend that we sit down based on the ahadith that we have and to practice silence. To sit down every day, to begin with a very short period of time. 10 seconds a day, sit down with no distractions around you. And don't think about your thoughts, just observe your thoughts. See what goes through your mind. Once you observe it, start intending to control your thoughts. The next day, you sit down for 10, 15 seconds. Next day, you sit down for 10, 15 seconds. Every time a thought comes to your mind, try to repel it. Try to get it out. It's going to seem to be impossible at the beginning. But that just like beginning any exercise or any activity. You go to the gym or you want to start some sport, at the beginning it seems impossible to do, right? You want to give up. But once you start doing it, you start realizing that this is becoming easier and easier. And then once you master it, you think, man, I can't live without going to the gym. I can't live without exercising. Because your life has improved so much that you never want to go back to that lifestyle that you had before. And controlling your mind is the same thing, even more intense than physical exercise. If you're able to control your thought, then the pleasure you have in life is incomparable with anything. Why? Because any time a thought that wants to bother you or worry you wants to come to your mind, what do? You block it. Not the negative blocking where you block emotion. No, you have control over your mind. You don't want that to worry you right now. But the thought that you want to think about, you bring it to your mind. And you don't only bring it to your mind, but you're able to delve deeply into your thoughts as well. Why? Because you don't have a million other thoughts distracting you. So what happens in this time? Your life becomes much more meaningful. Your relationships with your friends and your family members become much more meaningful. Why? Because you're sitting down with someone and they're talking to you. Finally, you were able to listen to someone. We always think that, when we're talking, we're having conversations, what's the percentage of really listening to that person? 5%? I think 5% for me. Like, really, I can hear the sounds, I know what they mean, but I'm not really listening to that person telling me their story. My friend coming over, look, listen what happened today. Yeah, what happened? And like 2 seconds into the conversation, there's what happened in the background. That's the sound that's running. And there's a million things of what's going on. What am I going to do in the next hour? Man, I got to drink coffee. Oh, I forgot this. I got to do that. There's also running in my mind at the same time. I call myself like a multitasker. But in reality, I'm someone who can't control his mind. I'm busy with a million thoughts. So I'm not really listening to my friend. And when I don't listen to my friend properly, my friendship remains on a very superficial level. Whereas if I sit down to listen to my friend in a proper way, really care about what they're saying, to feel with them, to be able to help them with what they're having, to engage with them in a conversation, that will deepen my bond with my friends. And the deeper bond I have with other human beings, the healthier I am in my life. Because you have a stronger support system. You have stronger care. If you're going through trouble, that friend who you're close with is the one that's going to be with you when you're going through trouble. And when they're going through trouble, you're going to be there with them because you feel their pain and you feel their suffering too. But this requires from us to be able to control our minds and thoughts. And this is achieved through silence. That's a practice that we have to do. So just like everybody goes, wants to go to the gym and exercise for an hour a day, how much time do we dedicate to sitting down and silencing ourselves per day, working on our silence part, on our mental part? I'm sure that most of us can say that we don't have 10 seconds in the day where we do this. Some other people do this, which is wonderful. But sit down every single day during your prayer time. Use the prayers as exercises to quiet down your mind and to focus on something. Use that time 5 times a day. You're kind of obliged to do it. So take advantage of it. When I stand on my prayer mat, you think that if you stand on your prayer mat, all those thoughts attack you, right? You start thinking about everything. But it's not true. That's how your mind is all the time. It's just that when you stand on the prayer mat, you're stuck. You can't move anymore. So you can't distract yourself. So what happens? You start, oh my God, why am I thinking so much? That's how you are every single day, but you don't focus on that because every time you want to focus on your thoughts and you realize how chaotic it is, you go do something else. You distract yourself. Your thoughts are so busy, you plug in the earphones and you start listening to something. You don't want to deal with yourself. It's too messy in there. So let me keep distracting. And then I'm 60, 70 years old, and I feel like I've missed out on life. I've never really done anything properly. I go on a vacation, and I come back, and I don't even feel like I was on a vacation. I was there physically, but my mind was all over the place. So you never enjoy anything you do. Yes, you get some satisfaction. You go on a vacation, you take your selfies, you take this, you take that, and you come back and you realize I was only 10% satisfied. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I need another vacation. So you start adding this vacation to it. Every 2 weeks you got to go somewhere. But in reality, that one vacation, if it was so intense and you enjoyed it so much, that would be enough for a whole year. And that's why the Prophet, when it comes to prayer, he said that 2 rak'ahs of prayer with focus are better than 100 or 1,000, many, without focus. You can pray 1,000 prayers, but your mind is not there. They're not better than 2 when your mind is there. So the objective is to pray mindfully, with mindfulness, not to pray only. Prayer is not the objective itself. It's there to make you mindful. If it's not, there's something wrong that we're doing. So this is another lesson that we should keep and try to make relevant in our lives, and requires practice. That's why in the letter Imam Sadiq sent to his companions, he told them that you have to apply what I'm telling you in your life. If you don't apply it, you're not going to change. It's not going to improve. You can sit down and watch 1,000 YouTube videos about how to become happy in life. And as soon as that video finishes, you go back to your misery. It won't help you. As soon as you apply those changes in your life, that's when you begin experiencing the change and the better life that you are trying to achieve. So that's why the Imam is telling him, apply this. These teachings I'm giving to you, not to increase your knowledge only. I'm not giving you this because I have nothing to do. Imam Sadiq is not sitting down, bored, with nothing to do, and decide, hey, what do I do today? Oh, let me write a letter to my friends and tell them what to do. That's not how he lived. He was a very busy man, and he was a very disciplined and serious man. And he knows because he himself was a practicing individual. He lived that lifestyle. Someone who's lived it is the best person who's able to tell you how to achieve that as well, because they've experienced it. So application in our life is the most necessary thing that we have to do. I'm going to end the lecture over here, and I hope that I was able to share some things with you that were beneficial, and hopefully we can apply these things in our lives. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to improve all of our lives, to grant us well-being, and to assist us, since we are weak and we have problems and difficulties in overcoming these difficulties that we have in this world. And I'm going to hang out for 5 or 10 more minutes I have. If anybody has a question or a concern, they can easily approach me.
Take it now. Take it now. Take it now. Take the question now.
Does anybody have any question or concern? Or I can share my phone number if you don't want to ask in public. So I'll give my phone number. It's the area code is 313. And I don't know, Brother Jawad, you can share it if you have a group or something.
I'll do that.
Area code is 313 290 3168. 313 290 3168. Inshallah, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, or just if you want to have a conversation, if you want to share your thoughts and ideas with me as well, I'd be very happy to hear them as well. With this, I would like to ask Brother Jawad to come and share his thoughts and about the Arbaeen, the event and incident, inshallah, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Let me begin by first offering gratitude to Sheikh Abdulrahman Cherri for him taking time to visit us at a very short notice. And also I want to thank the sister who suggested we invite him. We found your talks very refreshing, very much in line the way we think. We hope that this association is just the beginning of a great relationship in the time ahead. We pray for your continued success, and we hope that you'll be able to visit us. If there's any shortcoming in us hosting you, please forgive us and give us another chance, inshallah. We wish you a safe journey, inshallah. Thank you. I know you've got a flight to catch at midnight, so you got plenty of time, but thank you again. Sisters, brothers, the Arbaeen is a time where we remember our martyrs of Karbala, also as survivors of the tragedy in Karbala. The tragedy in Karbala had begun to arouse a great sympathy for the Ahlul Bayt. I'm going to share with you the narrations of Mullah Bashir Rahim here, hopefully get us in the space what was going on with the Ahlul Bayt when they were in Sham. So the tragedy in Karbala had begun to arouse great sympathy for the Ahlul Bayt in Hijaz and in Iraq, even in Damascus. Some people began to ask whether it was necessary to inflict so much suffering on the members of the family of the Holy Prophet. And when the charming little Bibi Sakina died in the prison, the people of Damascus came to learn about the death of the little girl whom they'd seen and come to admire. They began to talk openly about Yazid's cruelty. Yazid feared that the people might rise against him, and he was now anxious to get rid of the prisoners. So he calls Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Islam and tells him that he was prepared to free them and to compensate them for the death of the martyrs. He also asked the fourth Imam whether they wanted to remain in Damascus or to return to Medina. Imam Zayn al-Abidin replied that he will consult with his aunt, Bibi Zainab. When the Imam speaks to Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, she was grief-stricken, obviously, at the audacity of Yazid in offering the compensation. She said, tell Yazid to talk of the compensation with the Holy Prophet. We would certainly return to Medina, but first Yazid should provide a house so that we may hold the mourning ceremonies for the martyrs in Damascus. We shall then go to Medina via Karbala to visit the graves of the martyrs. So Imam Zayn al-Abidin conveys the message to Yazid, who after some hesitation agrees. And in asking for a house to mourn the martyrs, to mourn for the martyrs in Damascus, Bibi Zainab actually scores a major victory over Yazid. Also, when the house was made available, the ladies held the first Azal Hussein for 7 days in the very city which was the capital of Yazid, who had murdered Imam Hussein. The women of Damascus poured in to offer their condolences, and Bibi Zainab and the other ladies would tell them how the martyrs had been killed, how they had been denied water, how young children had been crying, Al-Atash, 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 how Imam had taken Ali Asghar and how he pleaded for a few drops of water, and how the baby had been slain. And these tales so moved the ladies of Damascus that they would break into sobs and begin wailing and beating the chest. Thus, in the very house of the murderer, Bibi Zainab laid the foundation of Azad al-Hussein, which we continue to observe till this day, like this gathering here tonight. This is so much like the story of Musa alayhi salam. Pharaoh ordered all the male children of Banu Israel to be put to death. Allah's miracle is that the prophet of Wahdaniyah finds refuge in the palace of the very Pharaoh who had plotted to kill him. So these majalises have continued to this day. Every Muharram, Shias, the lovers of Ahlul Bayt all over the world gather to mourn the tragedy which took place more than almost 1400 years ago. These majalises have great meaning for us. Firstly, they mean that we have our Imam and we grieve for the suffering to which he was subjected. Secondly, they mean that the year after year, we protest against all that Yazid stood for. We make a solemn promise to Allah never to follow Yazid's footsteps. In whatever country we may be, we have to remember that the taking alcohol or any kind of drugs is Yazid's way. To keep ourselves ignorant of the Qur'an or the Islamic way of life is Yazid's way. To oppress anyone is Yazid's way. To indulge in any un-Islamic activity is Yazid's way. We could not mourn Hussein and follow Yazid. Now I would like to talk a little, finally conclude a few remarks about the fifth journey that was there. There are many journeys. The fifth journey, the Sham to Madinah journey. After the 7 days of Majalis in Damascus, Bibi Zainab asked Imam Zain al-Abidin whether they could now proceed to Karbala. Preparations for the journey began. The mahmils with black curtains were arranged for the ladies. Imam Zain al-Abidin and Bibi Zainab helped the ladies to mount the mahmils. Suddenly Bibi Zainab noticed that Bibi Rabah was missing. And for a moment there was a panic, but soon Bibi Zainab said, I know where Rabah is. Accompanied by Imam Zain al-Abidin, Bibi Zainab went to the prison. There with a face on Bibi Sakina's grave was Bibi Rabah. Bibi Zainab said to her, Rabah, let us go home. Let us go home, sis, home. My husband lies in Karbala. My Asghar is there also. At least he has his father to look after him. Who will look after my Sakina? Khuda Hafiz, Bibi, you go, I will stay here. Bibi Rabab is the lady whose world had been totally shattered. It was after great persuasion that she got out. She walked slowly to the door, supported by Imam Zain al-Abidin. All the time at the grave, finally she said, Khuda Hafiz, my Sakina. So began the fifth and the last journey of the tears. This was to take them to Karbala and then back home to Madinah. How different is this journey from the first journey from Madinah to Mecca? How many had left Madinah and how many are going back? Where are all those children? When every stop would gather around Hasan Abbas. There were over 15 children in the caravan then. Now barely 20 are returning to Medina. The rest lie in Karbala or along the route to Karbala to Kufa and then Kufa to Sham. And where is Bibi Sakina with her chatter and the smile? She is on everyone's mind. Zain al-Abidin tearfully says farewell to the prison where lies buried his darling sister. Of course, unlike during the journeys from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham, this time the ladies are not bareheaded, nor are they mounted on unsaddled camels. They are at last going to Medina, but that very thought frightens them. Bibi Zainab thinks, what shall I say when they ask, where is everyone? Baby so often screams out, oh, Asghar, what should I say to Fatima Sughra? Who then is the hero? And who is the heroine of this journey? Yes, this journey has no hero and heroine. It has memories. It has fears. It has nightmares. And it has tears. Few words are said. The thoughts which crowd in every mind are too heart-rending to be spoken of. They arrive at Karbala. You can well imagine of the suffering of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Bibi Zainab and all the ladies, when they arrived at Karbala, every grave had a lady weeping for the one buried there. Every grave save two. Bibi Zainab spent all her time at Hussein's grave. And it was young Muhammad Baqir who wept on the graves of Aoun and Muhammad. Bibi Zainab took out a tiny bundle. She lovingly opened it and placed Bibi Sakina's earrings on this grave, saying, "Brother, do forgive me." This is all that is left of your darling Sakina. The ladies were weeping and wailing, and Imam Zain al-Abidin was consoling them. He knew that a very difficult situation was yet to come. The first meeting with Bibi Fatima Sughra. The journey to Medina was slow. When the city came within the sight from the hills surrounding Medina, Bibi Kulthum was heard to recite a poem which means the follows: "Oh, the city of our grandfather, the Holy Prophet, how can you accept us at all? We were so many when we left you, only to return, having at Karbala lost them all." Bibi Zainab went up to Imam Zain al-Abidin and said, "My son, pray that Allah grants me courage to face Sughra. How shall I answer her questions?" Imam Zain al-Abidin replied, "May Allah grant you the patience of Fatima Zahra and the courage of Ali." Imam Zain al-Abidin instructed the companions who were with him to go to Medina and erect two huge tents on the outskirts of the city. Very early on the following morning, they entered the tents. Imam Zain al-Abidin sat in one and the ladies in the other. Now a messenger was sent to tell the people of Medina that Imam Zain al-Abidin and the daughter of Ali had arrived. The people ran from their houses to the two tents. The people of Medina had, of course, already heard of the tragedy of Karbala. They did not, however, know of all the details of the young children that had been killed. The men of Medina came to Imam Zain al-Abidin, and the ladies went to the tent where Bibi Zainab and the other ladies were. There was so much weeping and wailing that it could be heard from miles away. Suddenly, someone spotted Bibi Fatima Sughra coming. She was supported on one side by Salma and on the other by al-Baneen. Bibi Zainab prayed to Allah for courage. She put on her chadar and went out to meet Sughra. Neither could utter a word. Bibi Zainab put her arms around Bibi Fatima Sughra and brought her inside the tent. Sughra looked around, searching every corner. "Where is my sister Sakina?" She cried, "Sakina, come over. Let your older sister embrace you and give your condolences." At this, there was renewed weeping and wailing. Who could possibly have the courage to tell Sughra where Bibi Sakina was? Ya Allah, Sughra now looked at the top of Bibi Rabah, look at the lap of Bibi Rabah. She did not find there whom she was looking for. Then she looked at the lap of each of the other ladies. She could not see what she was looking for. Then she looked outside. The young child she was looking for, forehead crawled out, frightened of what Sughra might ask. Bibi Zainab asked Imam Zain al-Abidin to come over. Our fourth Imam came. He put his arms around Sughra in between the sobs and said, "Oh Sughra, oh my dear sister, have patience. Asghar is lying in the grave." Bibi Fatima Sughra stared at her elder brother in absolute disbelief, and then she screamed and fell in voices. Allah la'anatullahi qawm al-zalimin. Matam was saying, "Ya Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا ہر بیوی کر رہی تھی کچھ اس طرح سے گریا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جو آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا کچھ بیبیاں یہاں ہیں کچھ بیبیاں وہاں کرتی ہوئی فغاں کرتی ہوئی فغاں بکھری ہوئی تھی مقتل سرور میں جا بجاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا ایک بی دشت خونی میں جاتی ہے نہر پر کہتی بچشم تر کہتی بچشم تر عباس دینے آئی ہوں پرسا سکینہ کا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا گھٹ گھٹ کے لاڈلی تیری زنداں میں مر گئی تربت وہیں بنی تربت وہیں بنی بھیا وہ قید سے نہ ہوئی مر کے بھی جدا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا اکبر کی قبر پر یوں ہوئی لیلا نوحگر دیکھا نہ سال بھر دیکھا نہ سال بھر آئی ہوں قید شام سے اب ہو کے میرے سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا پانو یہ
بین کرتی تھی اے میرے بے زبان ماں ڈھونڈے اب کہاں ماں ڈھونڈے اب کہاں بتلا دے ہے کہاں میرا اصغر ہے کربلا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا جہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیویاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا قرباں تیرے اے میرے ماں جائے بے وطن مجبور تھی بہن مجبور تھی بہن زندہ میں مجھ سے تیری امانت ہوئی جدا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیویاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا ہر بی کر رہی تھی کچھ اس طرح سے گریا سادات کربلا یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین
حسین
یا حسین
یا حسین حسین
بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے کیسا ہے یہ جہاں ڈوبے جا رہے کیا سب آ گیا ہے حافظہ
بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے
ہونے لگی اذانیں کیسے سروں کو داغے بازو بندے ہوئے ہیں آنکھوں کے منہ سے رستے منہ میں نہارے کیا شام گیا ہے
حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
کیوں غفلہ اٹھا ہے بجتا ہے شریعانے میرا رہے ہیں آدھا کچھ ہو کے راضی آنے کیوں جشن کا سما ہے مسکرا کیا شام
آ گیا ہے حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
مرزوں پہ جتنے سر ہے سر میرے سر بندے اس کی پر گرتا عباس کا یہ سر گیا ہے
حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
اتنا چلے ہیں ٹیلر سارے قیدی چلتے چلتے سڑتی اگر زمینی پیروں کے اگلے بھی آنسو
حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
لوگ کس کا سر آگے ہم سے دعا کرائے کیوں دعا دو یہ ہم پہ آئے لے کر دعائیں ہم سے دل بھی تمہارے کیا شام
حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
ماؤں کی گودیوں سے لپٹے ہوئے یہ بچے سیاحوں میں کیسے چکرے بچے جو گر رہے وہ بیچارے
کیا شام آ گیا حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
ایسا ہے یہ چراغا دل ڈوبے جا رہا ہے کیا شام آ گیا
حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں حافظہ بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
یا حسین 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 یا حسین
از شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد باز اربعین آمد از شام پرغوغا از شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد باز اربعین آمد از شام پرغوغا از شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد باز اربعین آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب از این آمد آذربینی آمد از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد مکان حریت مکان حریت شدت کنان میگفت شدت کنان زینب سر حسین نازنین آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد. I'm looking for others in West Farsi. از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب از این آمد آذربینی آمد از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد دل زهرا دل زهرا دیده می‌ریزد دیده می‌ریزد که عذاب بر سر که عذاب بر سر علی می‌ریزد علی می‌ریزد قائم ابا قائم ابا که عذاب می‌ریزد که عذاب می‌ریزد در فضای کربلا در فضای کربلا آذربینی آمد آذربینی آمد از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب از این آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد نبض شام آمد نبض شام آمد اما گلی مانده دختر ساله این غم جانسوز این غم جانسوز اون بود شرمنده اون بود شرمنده در زبان این زمان در زبان این زمان آتشین آمد آذربینی آمد از شام پرغوغا از شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب از این آمد آذربینی آمد از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد برادر را برادر را زینب ببر نگره زینب ببر نگره دیدگان میتر دیدگان میتر دکتا اخا بنگر دکتا اخا بنگر میم سفید قدم کمان میم سفید قدم کمان دل از این آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب از این آمد آذربینی آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد آذربینی آمد زینب بگفت ای اخا لب گفتم خب بردم به تو را بردم به تو را ما صدفسوس ای اخا ما صدفسوس ای اخا غیل شد ما جدا غیل شد ما جدا او در خراب مانده او در خراب مانده شرمنده ام شرمنده شرمنده ام شرمنده ای برادر جان حسین ای برادر جان حسین دم از این آمد از اربعین آمد از شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد از اربعین آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا دم از این آمد از اربعین آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد اربعین آمد اهل علی یک یک اهل علی یک آلین هر قبری آلین هر قبری رزیان باودا آخرین آمد از اربعین آمد از شام پرغوغا از شام پرغوغا دین آمد از اربعین آمد اربعین کربلا اربعین کربلا زینب حسین آمد از اربعین آمد شام پرغوغا شام پرغوغا یاران دین آمد از اربعین آمد الله به حق پهلوی بهشت دسته زهرای بتول این عزاداری ما جملگی بنای قبول بار الله به حق پهلوی بهشت دسته زهرای بتول این عزاداری ما جملگی بنای قبول بار الله نشود داد به هنگام ممات بار الله نشود داد به هنگام ممات هر زبان که فرستاد به محمد صلوات الله صلی علی محمد.
الرحمن الرحيم السلام على ولي الله وحبيبه الرحمن الرحيم السلام على ولي الله وحبيبه السلام على خليل الله ونجيبه السلام على صفي الله وابن صفيه السلام على الحسين المظلوم الشهيد السلام على أسير الكرباء